I never thought a regular Tuesday afternoon would turn into the moment that changed everything for my family. One knock at the door flipped my entire life upside down. And if what happened hadn't been caught on my security cameras, no one would have believed me. But it all started with a man pretending to have authority he never had. My wife, Emily, was baking in the kitchen when we heard someone pounding on our front door. Not knocking, pounding, like they were trying to break the frame. I walked to the hallway, expecting a delivery or a neighbor needing help. Instead, I saw a man in a cheap black vest with the letters, HOA Security, printed crookedly on the front. He didn't look like any HOA representative I had ever seen, and certainly not a trained security officer. His badge was plastic, his boots were worn, and he kept glancing around nervously. Emily stepped forward, cautiously asking how she could help. That was the moment his attitude completely shifted. He said we were in violation for having a new fence installed without approval. That was impossible because our property wasn't even under HOA rules. I tried explaining it, but he cut me off and said he had the legal right to enter our backyard. Emily politely told him he needed to leave. Instead of responding, he did something unthinkable. He shoved her, not hard enough to injure her badly, but enough to make her stumble backward. For a second, I froze, completely shocked that someone would touch my wife like that. Emily looked at me with fear and disbelief. And something inside me snapped in a way I had never felt before. I stepped between them and told him to leave immediately, warning him that he had no authority to be on my property. He smirked like this was all a joke to him. Then he reached for Emily again, as if trying to push past me. That's when I grabbed his arm, turned him around, and held him firmly away from us. I didn't hurt him. I just restrained him enough to stop him from touching us. But he started yelling like he had been attacked, screaming that he was a law enforcement officer, and I was assaulting him. I told him calmly that everything was being recorded on my doorbell camera. The color drained from his face instantly. He tried to pull away and run, but I kept my voice steady and told him the police were already being called. Emily held her phone, shaking, explaining the situation to the dispatcher. The man went from aggressive to desperate in seconds. That's when the truth finally slipped out of his mouth. He admitted quietly that he wasn't HOA security. He had no badge, no authority, no reason to be here. He said someone from the HOA had promised to pay him if he could intimidate homeowners into following their illegal demands. Emily and I stood there stunned, trying to make sense of the madness. When the police arrived, the man immediately tried to paint himself as the victim. But the officers asked for his identification, and he had nothing. No license. No permit. No employment records. When they watched the camera footage showing him pushing Emily, the situation changed very quickly. The officers placed him in handcuffs and assured us we did the right thing by reporting him. Emily still looked shaken, but seeing justice begin to unfold helped her breathe easier. The man kept shouting that the HOA made him do it, but the police didn't seem convinced. They escorted him to the car while we gave our statements. Over the next few days, the story spread around the neighborhood. Everyone had heard rumors of the HOA being controlling, but no one expected them to send someone pretending to be security. Neighbors knocked on our door to check on Emily and share their own experiences with intimidation tactics. The pattern was becoming clear. One neighbor said the HOA tried threatening her with fake fines for having her trash invisible for 10 minutes. Another shared that someone had attempted to force their way into his garage, claiming it was a surprise safety inspection. It suddenly made sense. Someone had hired people to scare residents into compliance. Emily and I collected more stories and turned them over to the police and county officials. Within a week, an investigation was launched against the HOA board. Records were pulled, financial documents were examined, and suspicious payments were found that matched the fake cop's story. The community had finally had enough. The HOA president tried to deny everything. He said he had no knowledge of anyone being sent to homes. But the police uncovered text messages and emails showing he coordinated the intimidation, paid fake enforcers, and threatened homeowners with made-up violations. The board dissolved instantly when the truth came out. Emily and I attended the community meeting where the officers explained the charges. Residents watched in disbelief as they learned how deeply the corruption had gone. The HOA president was charged with fraud, impersonation, and harassment. Emily squeezed my hand, grateful knowing we had taken the right stand. With the HOA gone, the neighborhood created a new committee run by actual volunteers who wanted transparency and fairness. No more intimidation. No more fake fines. And absolutely no more people pretending to be officers sent to threaten families. Peace slowly returned to our street. Emily took some time to emotionally process what happened, and I supported her in every way I could. She kept saying she couldn't believe someone would cross such a line over something as small as a fence. I reminded her that none of it was her fault. Some people misuse power in the worst ways, but truth always wins eventually. The funny thing is, the fence that supposedly caused all the trouble ended up being the reason the HOA was exposed. If that fake officer hadn't shown up, the corruption might have continued for years. Sometimes chaos reveals the truth faster than peace ever could. And that truth ended up protecting every family in our community. Looking back, I'm grateful we stayed calm, recorded everything, and trusted the proper authorities. I never wanted a confrontation, but I refused to stand by while someone disrespected or endangered my family. That moment taught me how important it is to stand firm when something is wrong, even when it's uncomfortable. Today, Emily is stronger than ever, and our neighborhood is safer because people finally spoke up. The fake HOA cop faced consequences, and the corrupt board behind him was held accountable. We didn't have to use force or escalate. We just had to stand our ground and speak the truth. And sometimes, that's more powerful than anything else. So whenever I walk past the front door now, I'm reminded of the day a fake officer tried to scare us, and failed. Because courage doesn't look like fighting. Courage looks like protecting the ones you love without losing who you are. And in our case, courage helped expose a lie big enough to bring down an entire HOA. If you're dealing with something similar, remember, you are not powerless. Speak up, document everything, and trust the real authorities. No one has the right to intimidate you or your family. And sometimes the smallest act of standing firm can change far more lives than you ever expect.